Time for Type 40, lunchtime for Type 40. If you're Tom Baker, or if you're me, hanging around in the middle of the day, at least my time here in Birmingham. I'm Dan Hadley, of course, Birmingham's king of the geeks. Where's Birmingham? People sometimes ask me. That's a really interesting question. Even people who live in Birmingham, not really sure where it is. I know where it is, sort of. Yeah, so here we are with another sort of test stream in the middle of the day to hang out with you guys, with the Doctor Who community, and anybody else, any other straddlers who happen to come across this bit of old nonsense, fluff and nonsense here at the Type 40 channel from the Space Book. I love this picture of Tom Baker. I love most pictures of Tom Baker, come to think of it. I think a lot of Doctor Who fans do. He does everything in the most interesting way possible, doesn't it? So yeah, hello out there. Thought we'd hang out for a little while here in the console room in the studio and take the temperature. What's going on with you? So let us know in the comments section there. I'm all ears for the next hour or so. We'll see what we get into. Last time we were all over the map. I think we ended up talking more about James Bond than we did about Doctor Who. James Bond, Blake 7, movies, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, mostly Doctor Who. In fact, you're more likely to have seen what's going on than I am. I've noticed that Karen Gillan's pregnant. I think that's what's passing for Doctor Who news this week. That's probably about it. So yeah, let me know if you've heard anything else. There's a few things I want to tell you about as well. I've got some people here. So we've got the Rabbi from another planet here. My very favourite YouTuber. Hey there, what are you testing? I'm testing me. I'm testing to make sure that I'm still cognizant, mate. And I've got John Yordan there in the live chat as well. Says hi, all, hi. Yeah, we're all in blue this time, electric blue, just for a change. And TARDIS blue. See what's happening there. Yeah, so hit me with it, exactly what's on your mind, if you're aware of anything going on out there. Obviously, congratulations to Karen Gillan. I think she looks pretty far gone. I'd say she's only a little bird, isn't she? So that's probably it's probably about 4 or 5 months, I'd say she looks like, maybe even more. Hi, Aidan. I got Aidan McGeer in the live chat too. Says hello. Yes, so big news here, biggest news here, is that after about, how long's it been? I'd say it's about 3.5 weeks, I finally bought a new telly. Now, the last time I did one of these streams, I was complaining because my telly had broken after 15 years. Yeah, a bit of a tight ass. It didn't really owe me anything after all that time, did it? And I was debating about what type to have, because I thought I knew. And then it's one of those things, as soon as you sort of start talking about it, or you go into a shop and see what's around, you have a good look. When I was last looking, for example, all the cases to tellies all look distinctively different, like whoever was making them, like Sharp or Panasonic or Sony. The cases, they all look distinctively different, but now everything just looks the same, just like a massive rectangle, and that's pretty much it. So you have to sort of trust their word that all the bits of jargon that are down the side of these things actually do something, actually mean something. Otherwise, you could end up pretty much all ends up when it's time to plug it in, just like Mike Tucker here found when he was messing with the TARDIS. So I selected my new TV. It's on the way. I've ordered online in the end. That's very brave when it comes to me and electronic equipment. But being without a TV for the last 3 weeks or so, man, I never thought I'd be able to go without a TV for that long ever. But it is on its way. The temptation, of course, as a geek, as somebody who watches a lot of TV and movies, is to, quite frankly, to get the biggest bastard you could possibly manage to get through the front door. I haven't done that in the end. I've taken actually some of the advice that I got from the live chat here a few weeks ago. I think it was Lee that was in Problem Bling, and a few other people were saying go for the new QLED, OLED stuff. So that's what I've done. I'll let you know what I think when it's all in, when I'm wired up, plumbed in, and ready to go again. So yeah, what should be the first thing I watch on my brand new TV? I'm not entirely sure. That's the irony. It'll probably end up being like a 50-odd-year-old episode of Doctor Who. Which I suppose is exactly what the people who've innovated with all of this stuff, exactly what they'd want, isn't it? Who else is here? So I've got more people. Aidan McGeer says she and Jenna have swallowed planets. Yeah, they're both egg-bound, aren't they? Yes, must be something in the water. In the water at the TARDIS water cooler there. Sheila B's in too. Sheila B. Good morning, folks. Well, folk. You mean me? Or there's people in the live chat as well. Of course, everybody counts here. We'll have a round conversation about it. What have you gone for? Says John Yulden. Yeah, I've gone for the funky new crystal OLED things. So I was going to get this massive bastard of a telly. I thought, well, hang on a minute. How close do I actually sit to the thing? I'll end up not being able to see a thing by Christmas if I watch too many things on like 75, 80-inch TVs. No. Hi, Stephanie Barrett's in from Tasmania in Australia. It's 10:30 p.m. there. Oh, so this is a night call for you then, Stephanie. What have you been? Have you been watching the telly all day? What have you been doing this evening? Let us know there. Let us know in the live chat. Yeah, and I thought I'd go live as well because I'm not live later, where I usually am on a Mondays. More often than not, we are on Mondays, but not this time. So I wanted to tell you about this. We are on, but we're not. We're on as Type 40 Live from 8 p.m. Monday with this. So and this is one of the reasons why I've been so knackered the last couple of weeks. It was the build-up and then the come down from Hooverville 15 in Derby at Quad. And we covered that on the channel. We sort of live streamed it as it was going along. A few technical challenges we encountered doing that. So what we've done is we've gathered together all of the footage that actually makes some sense, all of our coverage from that, and we're putting it all together in one omnibus edition of Type 40 Live, as well as stuff that you haven't seen and heard from that day that we recorded sort of in parallel to it. So stuff you've seen or heard, stuff you probably didn't catch because we were trying to stream it all day, all pushed together with lots more of stuff that you haven't. So that's coming up later this evening as of time of recording on Type 40 Live. That's with myself and Simon Horton, and Jack was there as well, so Shah, and various other people as well. So you're going to see lots of familiar faces there. So yeah, we were at Quad in Derby, and it's a perfect way to kick off the autumn, really, autumn festivities for Doctor Who. You know, Simon was saying to me the other day there was like 15 episodes of Doctor Who that originally premiered on this day throughout the decades, because autumn's traditionally Doctor Who time, isn't it? So yeah, it does feel that all is right, but when I watch a brand new story, when I watch a classic story, I should say, on my brand new telly, I don't know, I'm not sure which one I'll go for. It have to be on Blu-ray, I think. I'll go for maybe one with the new effects. I don't know. So yeah, 8 o'clock as always tonight here on the Type 40 channel, or if you're watching and listening after the fact, you can get that. It'll still be up there. It'll still be fine. So yes, we're streaming this. So the other thing I'm testing is that I wanted to test that we were streaming as well over to the Spacebook channel. That's the second channel. More on that a little later on. So yeah, how have you guys been? Yes, Stephanie says I've been watching some TV and other YouTube channels this evening. There you go. There are other YouTube channels. Excellent stuff. Well done. Hope you've had a good time. Daryl Joyce is in and says, afternoon, I don't have a telly anymore. Do you mean you must have a screen of some kind, though? You mean you've settled, you just go with the monitor, Daryl, rather than an actual telly? So I haven't got a TV license, so I don't watch telly. Don't take it to extremes. But I've got, I wanted to have a decent screen so that movies and things like that are going to look the best that they possibly can. Okay, we've got Aidan says, my next TV will probably be an OLED once it's cheaper. I had a good 4K HDR TV since 2018, which its LED has blown twice, the second time recently, resulting in my getting a QLED TV. It's fantastic. They don't build anything to last now, Aidan. I think I've got a few years on you, so I'm getting to that time in my life where I just complain about this sort of stuff nonstop. Nothing's ever built to last anymore. At one time when your TV went wrong, you'd get somebody in to repair it. A bloke would come round, get on his hands and knees in a pair of sort of slack beige trousers and mess with it for a while, but nobody ever has TVs repaired anymore, do they? A rabbi says, dude, you should watch the 1996 TV movie in 4K on your new TV. OLEDs are awesome. Yeah, the TV movie is a good pick, actually. I do watch that at least once a year. It's probably one of the only Doctor Who stories that I can honestly say I do watch pretty much once a year. Daryl says, if I watch a DVD, I'll watch it on the computer. It's not perfect, but it's adequate. Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, I think the days of sort of everybody kind of, saying, I've got to have this bit of kit because everybody else has got it, or that's the latest new sort of new evolution that everybody should have. And that you'll talk to people when it comes to AV just the same as with audio, with people who are really into sort of vinyl and things like that, and people say, you've got to have this kind of needle, you've got to have this kind of stylus. And I know there are people who are just as boring about TVs and screens and LEDs and OLEDs and things like that, but really it has to be down to the individual, doesn't it? How you want to rock it. Isn't that right, Tom? Yeah. John says you also have to have a soundbar now due to them not building them in for the audio now. I hadn't thought of that because I had, up until recently, I'd got a 5.1 home cinema system, but it was really old. I bought it. I originally bought it for the comeback of Doctor Who. So that's nearly 20 years ago. So yeah, that's finally been pensioned off. So maybe you're right. I think perhaps I should get a soundbar. I hadn't thought of that. Oh, that's another however many £100. Stephanie says, my first TV cathode tube lasted from 91 until 2011. Wow. 20 years. Yeah, those things, they did, a lot of them did last for quite a while. It took a long time to burn out, didn't they? Yeah, so that's what's on the way. I've decided to go sensible. I've bought a name brand as well, so hopefully it'll last. But we'll soon see how that works out for me. So when it comes to Doctor Who, I've got a couple of stories sort of lined up to watch, things I've been promising myself, as well as movies and TV shows and things like that, which I've been meaning to catch up on, and stuff that's waiting for me in the playlist on Netflix and Amazon and things like that for when I've got the time. I was halfway through. What was I halfway through? Oh, that was that show. What's it called? Tracker. Yeah, so I'm halfway through that and a few other things. So, and there's a whole season of House of the Dragon as well that I've got to see. So I wanted to wait until I got my new TV until I could sort of get loaded up with that. I suppose I could rewatch Ncuti Gatwa's first season of Doctor Who, couldn't I? But yeah, you don't want to get too carried away. That was 88 weeks of my life already. I don't think I want to relive that anytime soon. No. We've got Father Miller in the live chat. So I haven't seen you for a while, Chris. I hope you're okay. Yo, says Father Miller. Yes. So everything does seem to be working absolutely fine. I'm trying to innovate with the channel and the channels and see what comes up. So later on, that's it. So we've got the Type 40 live tonight from Hooverville. So that was absolutely fantastic, and it was really great to be invited back by the Hoovers to cover that. It was absolutely exhausting, just as the last one was, and full of fresh new challenges as well. I think I needed about 2 days to recover from it, and I'd spent 3 or 4 days preparing for it. So that's yes, that was a good laugh. What else? So yeah, it's also the second channel, the Spacebook, that's up as well. That's been given a bit of a refresh. We live streamed the other night with a new edition of the Spacebook Live, and that was myself and Ian Diaz and John Yulden and our mate Z3PO as well. He was our guest, as well as the legendary Doctor Who YouTuber Balstrek. So we all got together and took a look at the upcoming releases that are going to hit the cinemas in the UK over the next couple of months. And that was a really good laugh. I spent a couple of hours doing that. So sci-fi, horror, cult movies, superhero stuff. It was all in the mix there. And we all got to know one another's tastes that little bit more. So Z3PO was a really good sport. It's when you do one of these shows with a bunch of people who know one another pretty well, yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world to just sort of drop into that, but he was a really good sport, and we had a proper laugh. I just can't believe that it's the autumn already. It'll be midway through September before we know it, won't it? And the weather's already started to change. There's not quite so much long green grass to go out and touch as there was. There's also Ncuti Gatwa. Yeah, we know he likes to touch grass, don't we? Vanessa's in the live chat here and says, "Hi, Vanessa. Good to see you back. And good morning." She says, "Good morning to you too." Stephanie Barrett says, nobody season 1 again. Don't do it. Season 1, oh, you mean season 1 of Doctor Who? No. I won't be. James A. Fitzpatrick says, I do conventions and they are a lot of work. I'm not getting any younger myself. When you say you do them, do you mean you work them as a steward or something like that? Your staff at conventions. Where are you, James? Are you in Britain or are you overseas? Don't know. Father Miller says, I'm just popping by. Have to say mass for the school kids in a bit, and then I'm off to teach. Well, I hope all that goes well. They're shaping young minds there, the Father Christopher Miller way. Oh, no! Not nobody. I hate autocorrect as well, Stephanie. It never corrects the words that you want it to correct. Have you noticed that? Certainly not on my phone. So I'll send messages to people. I'll have trusted the system to sort of autocorrect anything I might get wrong. It never does. Never does. John Yordan asks, have I figured out who Aquafina is yet? No. I've forgotten all about that. So that's somebody we talked about on the Spacebook Live the other night. I have no idea. I thought Aquafina was like something you stuck down you hooked on to the rim of the toilet, and then every time you flush, it would sort of spray lemon or something like that into the bowl. That's what it sounds like to me. Daryl asks, whatever happened to part 2 of the latest Mission Impossible? I thought that was coming this year. Well, they wasn't the last one called Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? Something like that. I didn't see it, but I think it underperformed at the box office. So what they're doing is they've I think if you go and buy it on DVD, Dead Reckoning, you'll notice that the phrase Part 1 isn't on the cover anymore. So they're still making the sequel, but it's not going to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2 anymore. They're giving it a new title, and they've gone back to it and sort of re-edited it and things like that. So it's being looked at again, because that franchise has always done really, really well until that movie. So it is coming. I think it'll probably be out next year at the latest. They can't leave it any later, really, can they? I've got a hello from David Kilner. Hello, David. Don't recognise your name. Have we spoken before? Please excuse me if we have. Let me know what you're doing today. We've got the Sodor Engines is here as well, and he says, do you reckon if they made a 14th Doctor toy, do you think it would come with crying action? You're talking about the 14th Doctor or the 15th Doctor? You talking about David Tennant? What's David Tennant got to cry about? Actually, maybe. I think probably quite a lot. I'll tell you what, you can tell who wears the trousers in his house, can't you? Like in the background, Dan says, Rebecca Gold, that's Ian David Diaz. Hello, mate. Obviously, that means the bookies have kicked him out for the afternoon. Yes, it's working, says PD Richards. Well, I should hope so, mate, particularly if you give it a twist. James adds, I'm a vendor at games conventions. In Massachusetts, USA. Surprised to see you live this early, but so am I. That was free, so I thought that's how it works. If I'm free, we'll get on screen and do one of these, have a casual, sort of chilled out live stream for a bit. So Sydney Rough Diamond says, isn't that a mineral water? Is that Aquafina? That's sort of what I thought. It sounds like something that would sort of perk up the average home or the average person. So you could be right. I think that is that. So I think that the Sodor Engines is probably talking about. Did you mean Ncuti Gatwa? Because it's his doctor that's always in a 2 and 8, isn't it? Always upset about something. That's what it is, isn't it? Yeah, that people aren't going to warm to that, are they? I can see why they're doing it, sort of. Should the character of the Doctor be humanised? Here and there, in the corners, in the margins, a little maybe. But to have him a nervous wreck in practically every episode of the show for 5 minutes, I think that kind of thing is only really worth it. It's a well you should only go back to every now and again, otherwise it completely loses its power. So when you're seeing it every week, it seems like he just gets upset at the drop of a hat. So how can you possibly have any real faith in a character who isn't together? You know, I've always said the Doctor isn't Spock. He doesn't need to be that stoic But I think, you have to be very sparing when you show those kinds of emotions, don't you? Here he is. Look, this is the 15th Doctor in happier times. Is that your smartphone in your pocket, or you're just pleased to see me? My God. The British police force as well. What else is happening here? So PD Rich says they're refilming parts of it. I think PD Rich could be talking about that Mission Impossible movie that Darryl Joyce was asking about. Cheers, Dan, says Cliff Maxwell. Cheers to you as well, Cliff. Happy to see you there, mate. What's going on with you this time of day? I can't remember. It'd be quite late for you as well, wouldn't it? Be up quite late. Blessings on my way to school, says Divining Dragon. School with a beard like that? There was a couple of kids when I was at school who did have the beginning of beards. Come to think of it. Yes, 15th. My mistake. It's easy to. There's so many doctors now, isn't there? Who came after who and what, and then they put in sorts of rogue elements as well, like the fugitive doctor, don't they, and the war doctor. Supposed to remember who comes after what, and do we even have numbers anymore? David Kilner says, "I'm going to old episodes of Doctor Who." So that's what your is that your go-to place? I think it is my go-to place as well. If I just want to chill out with Doctor Who more often than not, it will be a classic episode that I go and watch. Vanessa Law says, people are comparing Shooty's crying to David's, which isn't even close, in my opinion. David Tennant's Doctor did show emotion now and again. We're talking about the 10th Doctor. It was very fleetingly, and so you knew when he was moved, when he was doing some soul searching as the 10th Doctor, you really felt it. And of course, the 9th Doctor, I think in his second episode, he does shed a tear, doesn't he? Because Jabe notices that single tear, and she puts her hand onto his forearm and says, "It's a miracle that you even exist." But I don't think we ever see the 9th Doctor cry after that. I'm pretty sure we don't. I think he gets close a couple of times, but please correct me. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. Yeah. Howdy, John, says Divining Dragon. Michael Q's in as well and says, "Hello, Dan, king of the geeks, and I say smoking." What, me or you are smoking? It has been said before, Michael. Thank you. But if you are smoking, let us know what you're smoking. By all means, as long as it's not in a beer garden and you're in Britain, because that you could fall afoul of the new regime. Cliff Maxwell says, but he's now the 15th. But he's not the 15th either, is he? Is that what you mean? No. Did the 14th Doctor cry a lot in those 3 episodes? I don't remember that either. He might have cried when he saw a couple of the lines of dialogue in the Star Beast. Christ, sobbed to himself over a pot noodle in the portal there when he thought Russell T Davies couldn't see him. Nigel David says, "Afternoon, Dan. Nice to see you in the afternoon." Well, it's nice to see you as well. It's nice to be seen, Nigel. You've been on holiday, haven't you? I saw you were over in Ireland. I think that's what it was. Hope you had a good time. The 10th Doctor in that meme in the rain, or the 11th crying on the couch have impact because they don't do that on a regular basis. That's exactly my feelings about it, Vanessa. If you feel that someone's always in a terrible state, it's no. Cliff's just dropped off the kids. Good stuff. Daryl adds, be nice to have some stoic male characters on TV. I don't think promoting emotional fragility is particularly good for young kids or society. No, it isn't. It isn't. I think that there was a time where I think we really needed some sort of balance whereby people had shut their feelings, closed them down so much that we did need to psychologically sort of get inside people a little bit more and to process how things can happen in a life and this isn't just a bloke. This is anybody in life, and how processing feelings is very, very healthy and essential. And characters in particularly serial dramas, I think it's helpful to see them doing that. But in adventure television, it can really hold things up. It can hold up the drama, and it lessens the comic book appeal. And to me, I think Doctor Who, particularly the new Doctor Who, was a great debt. I think the momentum of the storytelling means you can't really sit around too often like that, and certainly not have entire episodes where you sort of deconstruct somebody's entire emotional state. It's not for Doctor Who to do that. I think Star Trek's probably a little more, because Star Trek is proper science fiction. Well, it's supposed to be. Just nobody told what's his name, Alex Kurtzman, have they? But Star Trek is a better place to tell those kinds of inward stories that look inward of a person. Michael Q says it's from The Mask. Dan King off the gate. Yeah. From The Mask. Yeah, I love The Mask. 30 years old this year. Jim Carrey. That was, for years I thought that was the first film I'd seen him in, but it wasn't. Turns out I'd seen several. I just didn't know who he was. Divining Dragon says, "Oh, his teacher. You're not a student." He says, "I wish I could share Doctor Who with my students. Now they just wince at the title of the series, at the name of the series, Doctor Who. Is that seen as cringe? Cringe. Everything's cringe, isn't it? Or do you mean at the individual stories? Because they can be a little cheesy. They can definitely be a little cheesy, can't they? Didn't used to be that way," says Divining Dragon. No, times do change, and people and culture moves on. I'm not sure anybody told Russell T Davies of this. Maybe Stephen Moffat will break it to him. Don't know. Boomer Doug's in as well. Good to have you back, Boomer Doug. Hi all, I love this time slot. 10 p.m. here in Australia. Have you had a good day, Doug? Let us know. Let me know how your YouTube channel's going as well. Cliff says 10.5 from a weird regeneration, then bi-regenerated into 10.75. It's a bloody mess. So is this what we're saying? That Tennant's, the incarnation that David Tennant is then playing by the end of the giggle isn't the 14th Doctor anymore. You view that also as a new incarnation rather than the same one remaining, because technically he's regenerated. Is that what you're saying? But if that was the case, then after the 10th Doctor kind of partially regenerates in, is it the Stolen Earth? When he displaces all of that excess energy into the hand in the jar, then surely that would mean that he's regenerated then. And so the Doctor that Tennant then plays for the remainder of that finale and then through the specials, that's technically the 11th Doctor. By that, was that? Huh? Yeah, I think I see what you mean. I think we can over complicate these things. Divining Dragon says we don't teach resilience anymore. No, we actively discourage resilience, tenacity, patience. Wisdom is seen as a bit of a dirty word, I find, and that's all part of this culture whereby they sort of declare that everybody who's over about 35, certainly over 40, is pretty much past it and not worth listening to. You know, you're just a boomer, just like Doug. You're just a boomer, or you're an ist, or a phobe, or whatever else they want to call you that week. It's just a way of doing people down, really, isn't it? It's a way of dismissing people's perspective on life and their accrued wisdom and their lived experiences. Now, people talk a lot about lived experiences, but it's only ever people. Tends to be the people who crow on about lived experience do tend to be the people who've actually lived the least, either fewer years or life on a very particular track that they want you to sort of to talk about and to accept and give them special privilege for. I don't like that expression, lived experience, but but the older people who have sometimes lived like 3 or 4 different lifestyles, I suppose, or maybe have raised children and things like that. Their views are often dismissed, and their experience, the benefit of their experience, is done down. It's not seen as worth very much at all, and that's what leads to immense frustration and causes issues in society, isn't it? Well, we're getting deep. This is very deep for lunchtime, isn't it? James A. Fitzpatrick says, yes, Dan, I agree with what you said. I need more fun and adventure in my Doctor Who ASAP, don't we all? I mean, happily, the Christmas special, Joy to the World, with Nicola Coughlan, is it, the girl who from Bridgerton? I think that does look like a lot of fun, adventure, sort of fluffy adventure for Christmas Day. So I'm hoping that's going to be a bit more fit for purpose, and maybe act as some sort of reset on the 15th Doctor's era. What do you think of that? No? Hopeless optimism from me here in the middle of the afternoon. The Cliff says, insists, in fact, that Doctor shouldn't be getting emotional, period. Not understanding human emotions is part of the quirk of the character. I think the Doctor understands, up to a point, human emotions. He understands emotions. I think he processes them. I think he feels them. I say the Doctor is not Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock feels the emotions. He doesn't. He just doesn't sort of display them. Whereas I think the Doctor sort of feels them and enjoys them, or I think he's challenged by them. I think how he responds to them is the quirk of the character. So some of the Doctors are more emotional than others, and that depends on the interpretation of the character, of the actor who's currently playing the part, how they relate to the character. I think it's a little more nuanced than that. But I think the real issue, in fact, that Doctor Who episodes in their current form for 45, 50 minutes, an hour for the specials, and they're told at quite a momentum. If we accept that is the mode of storytelling, and that is the current pace, the current and future pace of Doctor Who stories, then you simply haven't got the time to sit around and do all that stuff for too long without the audience getting bored, and with other characters in the equation as well. I mean, I think Heaven Sent is a very emotional piece of TV, and that's probably about as far as you can take it with Doctor Who, because the Doctor gets into a terrible state, doesn't he? And it's emotion and loyalty and sense of purpose and friendship that keeps him going through that. So a lot of that is powered by emotion. Dragon, are you a history teacher? Yeah, we'd like to know that, Divining Dragon. What is it you teach, if you're allowed to say? Works meeting, have fun. Good stuff. And David Southall. Oh my God, I've been meaning to drop you a message, mate. What's your icon? Hi, Dan. Thought I'd pop in and see what on earth you're up to at this unusual hour of the day. I'm testing my system, mate. I'm tinkering again with the YouTube settings and channels and things. So yeah, I've done a few of these now. It's a good time of day to run a few things through. Hope you're well. Hope the wife's okay. Drop me a message when you can. Good to see you, mate. Good. Did anybody like the new Doctor? Asks David Kilner. Show of hands in the live chat, please. We're now 9 episodes in, aren't we, to Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor Who? Does anybody like him? Anyone at all? Millie? Yep. You? Okay. That's one. I don't dislike. I mean, if you're talking about do I like the Doctor or do I like the actor, I think the actor's a prick. I say reluctantly because I had every faith in him at the start. But the character, I like in fits and starts. I think he's better in some episodes than others, isn't he? It's particularly the ones he's actually in. But yeah, let us know. I mean, we ought to do a poll, really, hadn't we? After it's nearly a year since we saw him sort of first take the role in The Giggle. I thought he was fantastic in The Giggle. A real sort of bolt of energy into the show. That smile, that voice. I had immense hope for Ncuti Gatwa initially. And yet by the Christmas special, I thought, after about the first 10 minutes, once you've seen him run across the rooftops chasing that balloon, it's pretty much downhill from there. And parts of season 1, I thought he was good. But it was very much sort of clustered, wasn't it? It wasn't consistent. I think he has the potential to be excellent, but I think we're getting so deep into it now, and he's getting ensconced into the part and sort of fixed in an idea of how it's meant to be played. I think he's been given some terrible advice about how to play that part, that I think we're kind of running out of time for him to hit pay dirt, because he hasn't. I think he's connected with the character, but he hasn't hit pay dirt. I don't think we're unlikely to ever see the potential of the Ncuti Gatwa Doctor really realised, because of outside forces and his own. I think he's getting in his own way with the character now. PD Rich says it can be brought back after a good hiatus and a good new show. And so we're looking farther into the future now, aren't we? It's still around. I mean, we've got Doctor Who for at least the next 2 to 3 years. So despite the uncertainty that's reared its way out of the waters again, hasn't it? Like in a Jaws movie. When you think it's gone and we're right back there, the terror continues. Yeah, we are getting back to that place. But we're now, I mean, thinking so far down the line now that, I think I'd rather live in the here and now and enjoy where we are if we can, and keep a perspective of things, because as I tell people all the time, Doctor Who is more than just a TV show, and it's certainly more than the 8/9 episodes that we get a year, isn't it? It's the connection that each of us has with it. If you listen to a lot of audio drama, read the comic books, or you create your own stuff, it's all part of Doctor Who. It's Russell T Davies himself that insists now that everything counts. And who are we to argue with Russell T Davies, right, guys? Yeah, exactly. Divining Dragon is my biggest supporter. Great fun, says Boomer Dog. Excellent. And Divining Dragon says, my students just crowed about Doctor Who 15 years ago, and they mostly bailed out after Capaldi. A great many people didn't they? I mean, even my children, most of them struggled. Yeah. Michael, you've lost me. So is Woke Dan. You have to Nigel said he was over in Northern Ireland for a wedding. Irish weddings are pretty big. I can imagine that they are. Have you only just woken up from like a 3-week hangover? Jeez. Oh, dear. But Michael says, so glad if we never saw William Hartnell's Doctor crying from 1963 to 1966. No, we didn't. Of course we didn't. I think it's sort of a moot point, really. What was going on in the show in decades past, when we're going back 6 decades, television was really different, and Doctor Who's place in the TV landscape was different. The kind of stories that it could tell were different, and the model of the lead character, particularly the original incarnation on the telly before Patrick Troughton was able to come in and sort of show and to push it out and sort of partially explore what it could do, and the idea that his personality could change. William Hartnell's original Doctor was purposefully patrician, wasn't he? And if not stoic, then rather a solid character that never really moved. Even when he shuts his own granddaughter out of the TARDIS, he doesn't really register much of a flicker, does it? I think the nearest we get from emotion from him is when he meets Vicky in the following story, and we see one event. The relationship he forms with Vicky is partially a response to the relationship that he's now lost. It's all incorporated into the broader story, the individual story. Whereas now in modern storytelling, we can have more fun with that, but we can explore it over a longer period of time, and nobody will bat an eyelid. I do like character drama in Doctor Who. I don't think it should necessarily all be solid adventure in the way that it once was, but it's got to be measured. Otherwise, it's practically meaningless. What else is here? Cliff says, I propose that Who trying to keep with the current culture was the mistake, and exactly why my kids just moan and roll their eyes at it now. It needs to shift back It's a long form. I think a change of formats wouldn't hurt it. I think that for them to actively court a global streaming platform, and I can see why they did that, perfectly reasonable, absolutely valid, and probably, was it necessary? Maybe long term, but I can see why they'd find that attractive. But with that, being on a global streaming platform like that, they haven't embraced at all the possibilities that come with that as regards what you can do with the format. Now, you see, 25 minutes is simply too short. It was too short when classic Doctor Who was on, realistically, wasn't it? When we look back, now it's literally sort of bite-sized parts of Doctor Who. I think people need more now in the average week, unless it was on twice a week, like during the Davison era. So I think if they're embracing being on a streaming platform, they could look at how it's not uncommon now for episodes of Cobra Kai, for example, to be 30, 35 minutes. So again, and you could break a story down into 3 30, 35 minute chunks, and probably it wouldn't feel so much like slim pickings. It wouldn't feel quite so sort of insubstantial. Don't know. I just think that if you're going to go, I think they need to commit to the idea more for it to truly work. Right now, the entire format and delivery of Doctor Who is a massive compromise, and it's a pity. I think it's typical of the BBC, always doing things half measures, trying to have their cake and eat it. Some reviews of Beetlejuice in the live chat. I haven't seen it yet. Probably going to go this week. Looking forward to it as well. Vanessa says, life experience is a good way to explain. People today have no concept of history and what other people have been through. No, you're absolutely right. Lived experiences, yes, of course. Yeah, it's discounted by a great many people. It's like, well, why should we care about that? It was X amount of years ago. Well, if you... what's the quote? Those who won't learn from the lessons of the past, learn from the lessons of the past, and the mistakes of the past are doomed to repeat them, something like that. I've completely ignored that. But of course it is. And Divine and Dragon says, Dan, the key is to possess empathy, but maintain perspective and objectivity. I completely agree. Good to hear those velvety tones. Cheers, buddy. David's a really old friend of mine. In fact, I saw your sister a few days ago, walking down the high street in a world of her own. I've got my headphones on. So I'm glad it's going well for you, Doug. Any way in which I can help, again, please don't hesitate to ask. You are breaking up from time to time, Dan. Yeah, I'm getting all emotional. Shooty Gatwa. See what I mean? It's all worn off on me, Vanessa. All worn off on me. Okay, yeah. I haven't warmed to number 15. I hated the sexualizing predatory Doctor, says Stephanie Barrett. Yeah, it's my main objection as well. I mean, it's not something that was present in every episode, was it? I think it was there in Dot and Bubble a little bit, where that guy pops up on screen and he's kind of saying to Ruby, like, I saw him first and all that kind of thing. I think, oh, come on. I can just about tolerate that kind of thing. That's one thing. But the episode Rogue, I thought that was absolutely vile. A mauling of the character, a complete betrayal of everything that the character's all about, and that sort of asexuality. The Doctor is a romanticized hero and character, but that was just, I say the Doctor was just cruising for some ass. And it doesn't matter whether it's what kind of ass he's cruising for, whether it's straight or not so straight. The Doctor doesn't cruise for ass, no matter what his orientation is. That's not the character at all. No. Good for you, Nigel, David. What else? What else and who else? Gatwa fails, as Divine in Dragon. 8 episodes is bollocks, says Cliff. I couldn't agree more. Boomer Doug says, here in Australia, it's literally Doctor Who. That's the sad part. It's getting like that a little in Britain as well. The show hasn't caught back on. It hasn't won a new audience. It hasn't regenerated its appeal. Its broad appeal with the greater British public. And until it does so, it's failing. Because it's a popular show. It's not just for people like you and I, Doug, or Michael, or Vanessa, or Cliff, or any of us. It's inclusive of us, but it's not exclusively. It's not exclusively for us. And Doug's old enough to remember Dalek Mania in the 60s in the UK when I was about 7 or 8. It was fab. Everything was fab in the 60s, they'd have you believe. Daryl's in as well here with this pearl of wisdom. I'm getting to the point where I think a rest and a reboot would be the best thing for Doctor Who. It needs to lose a lot of the baggage and slim itself back and become original again. You see, I thought that it had done by going back to the model of one Doctor, one companion in the classic mode. But, and it's one thing I think when you look at imagery of the current era, they both look like really, really young people. Even though Ncuti Gat was 32, he doesn't look 32. Millie Gibson's 20, 21, something like that. And she looks it. But I think a lot of people sort of, if younger ones who've never heard of the show, never seen it before, people overseas who've never seen it before, they're going to look at the show as it currently stands, and they're going to see two young people. They look like contemporaries of one another, like a boy one and a girl one. It looks more like Time Slip or one of those kind of kids shows. And I know that that's just external appearances. Part of the appeal of the Doctor is the fact that he looks way, way younger than he actually is. But Ncuti plays him as a guy in his early to mid-20s as well, who's, as I say, who's like, who's horny. And I think that Ncuti's Doctor, it looks like, through the majority of the first season, he's like when you go to Alton Towers when you're a student or something like that, and everybody's sort of running around trying to go on all the rides. That's what he's like. He's like a student at Alton Towers. And but now and again, you get a hint of him really inhabiting the character and sort of feeling his way into the possibilities that a character like the Doctor gives any actor worth their salt to play on those different levels and sell us on the idea that they are far older, more ancient than they appear to be, and that they're operating on all these different levels. But I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think that's how he's being told to play the part. I don't think that's being reinforced to him. I think he's been discouraged from actually going to those levels by the producers, and in the way that they've encouraged him to sort of, as regards costume and things like that. So I think it's all symptom of something of a greater problem with the show. Dave says, I'd like to see the Doctor return to being more alien, less human, less relatable and empathic. A return to more cosmic grandeur and less day-to-day human nonsense. Human nonsense and human responses. He shouldn't be seen to respond in a human way. And I think that's when we see the Doctor crying for one reason or another in every single episode. In all sense, on the surface, it gets on people's tits. It doesn't take, as Doctor Who fans, it doesn't take much to get on our nerves, does it? We can say that. We're self-aware enough to know that. But too much humanity, it's unnecessary, because that's what the companions are there for. That's what largely the supporting cast are there for as well. And the Doctor kind of acts as a converter, I suppose, as a translator between the human being that he's traveling with and whichever culture he's taken them to. So he should be the middle ground, really. I said he, not they. Dividing Dragon again wants them to return to the serialized format. Yeah, I'd be down for that. I don't have any problems with the current format as such. I thought there were certain episodes this year that even this year that played with it well enough. But it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them to mix it up either. I think there's a lot of potential in that. Hello, everyone, says Thistle Beaks. And Nigel David said, I was just thinking the same in a half-hour format. If a half-hour format would work nowadays, yes, pretty much any format will work in the here and now. Because we have these streaming platforms, more sophisticated ways of delivering content to people. And because people are not watching, I know it drives the TV channels mad, or the controllers and the producers, it drives them mad that we can now watch what we want whenever we want. But part of embracing that is embracing the possibilities of that kind of the way habitual TV watching has changed. Habitual consumption of content has changed. I think it actually opens up far more than it closes down. I mean, for increasingly aging farts like me, I do lament the fact that it's not everybody in front of the telly at however, it was 5:45 when I was a kid, say 7:00 in the early evening. I'd love it to be like that again, but you can't turn back the clock to that extent, can you? But the BBC is always trying to have its cake and eat it. Michael Q says, Space Babies, game over, man. Game over. Space Babies, I love Space Babies. My favourite. I think it was my favourite episode this year? No, I think The Legend of Ruby Sunday was probably my favourite episode, but I did love Space Babies. I really did. But unfortunately, I did think it was mostly pretty downhill from there. And that kind of zest that Shooty had in that episode and the potential that was there, because obviously it's a very light and fluffy episode, but there's lots of different places that you could have gone off from there. That should have been baseline setting for the character, but it wasn't. They did some interesting things in The Devil's Chord, but after The Devil's Chord, for the following 2 episodes, we barely saw a hair on his head, didn't we? Yeah, so it was, yeah, it's not good. Yeah, I appreciate that people generally don't. I've got other feelings about that. Peter Rich says, I'm not a fan of 15. The Doctor's supposed to be a bit of an anchor for the companion. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not hiding in the corner blubbering. Again, it's fine every now and again. It's interesting every now and again. The scene between Martha and the 10th Doctor, where she pretty much sits him down and makes him tell her about his people, about his culture, or makes him open up a little. That had a lot of pathos. Russell T Davies needs to go back in time to 2005 and be the fan and producer he was back then. I say he's still a fan, he's still the producer, but he's totally ideologically captured. It's a sad state of affairs. It just goes to show, if it can happen to somebody as intelligent and talented as Russell T Davies, that they can become ideologically captured like that, and that it will completely compromise them on an intellectual level. It can happen to anyone. Thistlebeaks is not a fan either of the overtly sexual tones and predatory behaviour of the Doctor in Rogue. Now, it was horrible. It was vile. I would, if my children were still of that age where they were, like between 8 and 14, certainly 8 and 12, I would not have let them watch that. I'd probably have had to have vetted every episode of this since Shooty's first one, come to think of it. Maybe even the specials last year with hindsight, but I wouldn't have done that at the time. I wouldn't have dawned on me to do that. I'd got no reason really to have done that before they were screened. But as from the church on Ruby Road onwards, overtly, it's the predatory behaviour that I find so alien to everything about Doctor Who. I mean, I like a good dirty joke as much as anybody, but Doctor Who is not the place for it, is it, Billy? No. The Boomer Dog needs a rest and a reboot, don't we all, pal? Don't we all? And yeah, Thistlebeaks, it says it was nothing like the Doctor. I don't care what anyone says. No, it was unrecognisable. It was as if Ncuti was playing a completely different character. And if it hadn't been for the set of the TARDIS being in certain scenes, I thought I'd been watching a completely different show. Hi, Dr. Once. Dr. Once says, I've thought that combining the classic format and the new series format and have multiple adventures in the same place with the same characters for 4 to 6 weeks, that could be viable. Is that what you're saying? I agree with you, but it would work. But see, from my perspective, one of the reasons I love Doctor Who so much was the anthology format. The fact that every 4 weeks tops, the 6-parters, I always felt that they dragged when I was really little. Every 4 weeks tops, everything moves along. Fresh cast, fresh sets, fresh technology, fresh feeling to it. To me, that's the strength of this show. And so to not go there, to not use it, particularly when you've got, generally speaking, they've employed actors who are so versatile, particularly in the lead role, who can run with all of that. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Anything is possible, but to me, that format wouldn't be Doctor Who either. That's a different show too. Ezra Goldstein says, Doctor Who desperately needs a long hiatus from the small screen. Shock. What do you think, guys? What do you think? Does Doctor Who desperately need a long hiatus from the small screen? I don't think it needs. Oh, look. If it did go on hiatus again, it to stop us from complaining in the here and now about this particular set of problems, because it wouldn't be right under our nose, would it? And potentially the BBC could do what Eon are doing very wisely, aren't they? You notice there's still no announcement about James Bond. Eon are really wise about it. They are riding out the kind of the wokeism and the current problems that we have in across media until it all dies down, and they can bring James Bond back to the screen and not only not have to compromise the character and make it unrecognisable, but not have to constantly apologise and field stupid questions while they're publicising the thing from bad actors who are determined to deconstruct the thing or turn it into something it's not. Doctor Who is right in the centre of all that. It's hotly fought territory in the culture war, which is criminal, really. Criminal. It's not a fate that's befitting of a series that's brought so much pleasure to 3-4 generations of British children and a couple of generations worth of kids from all over the world. It's really sad. Thistlebeaks considers it to be a wasted opportunity. If you consider how much excitement and enthusiasm was around before and during the 60th, it's all gone. I actually kind of miss it. Yeah, there was just 12 months ago, there was a real buzz, wasn't there? There was a sense of anticipation. And obviously we knew very, very little about what was coming because they were deliciously tight-lipped then, weren't they? They were. And we all bought into it. I'm not going to say fell for it. We bought into it because we wanted to be wowed. I think largely all but the most partisan and pessimistic of us wanted to be wowed. Vanessa is currently watching Kinder. The black and white stuff is brilliantly horrifying. Yeah, Kinder is a bit of a classic, isn't it? Love it. Absolutely love it. I think the moment it went downhill for me was the whole Davros situation, which was such a bizarre tale, says Thistlebeaks. Again, you're talking about Destination Skaro, aren't you? The Children in Need special from last year. Again, major cock-up. I mean, that was filmed a year after the actual specials. But by broadcasting that and Russell giving the statements that he did at the time, it actively prejudiced a large chunk of the viewing population against what was to come. He put us all on the back foot. It was a real shock to the system, and it kind of ruined the anniversary. Kind of. I mean, I did find within 10 minutes of the Starbeast starting, I'd forgotten all about Destination Skaro because largely, The Star Beast was a completely different production. The Doctor was on point and recognisably the Doctor. The production values were sky high. They were stellar. There was a real energy about that. And up until the last 5 minutes, I think The Star Beast is a fantastic Doctor Who episode. I think that here, in the trenches, in the dedicated fandom, sort of fatigued from years of fighting the culture war, getting a piece of S like Destination Skaro just fall into your toilet bowl when you don't expect it. It was hard going. It was the very last thing we wanted to see or hear, wasn't it, John? It was. Divining Dragon confesses, I'm a boomer, and I feel Boomers Anonymous, and I feel our generation has been dismissed by younger creatives. It absolutely has. It is right that things that are at the front of popular culture move with the times, but Doctor Who, kind of like, I was going to mention The Simpsons then, but I think The Simpsons is long past its best now, isn't it? Doctor Who works at its best. It does have to move on. It should do. The 70s weren't the same as the 60s, and the 80s weren't the same as the 70s. It has to move on. But it only moves on effectively when certain cornerstones are observed. Everything in moderation. I know it's a boring answer, but it's true. It's true. The old Doctor Who format is perfect for streaming and binging, says Boomer Dog. I agree. Thistle Biggs is back to the rogue stuff. It does a massive disservice to Shooty's range. Has Shooty Gatwa got range? Don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I think we've seen hints at it. He's a far better actor than Jodie Whittaker. Actually, well, no. I'll make a distinction. He's far more suited to the part of the Doctor than Jodie Whittaker. That wouldn't be very hard, I admit. Does he have more range than Jodie? I'd like to think so. He doesn't have to, though. He just needs to be able to inhabit the role, because she couldn't. So he doesn't need to be. I mean, Jodie was fantastic in Broadchurch, and she was great in Venus as well. Several other things. Michael Q says, "I'm a young fart." You don't have to be an old fart anymore. Hi guys, says Heretic. I booked a day off work and there is a lunch stream. It's just for you. I knew you were coming, Heretic. That's what it is. Space Babies was weird cringe. The Talking Babies CGI, I just couldn't deal with it. See, I just thought that was all so much fun. So much fun. It wouldn't have been out of place in the original Russell T Davies era at all. Absolutely brilliant stuff. That's the kind of thing I want to see Doctor Who doing. Making us sort of nervously laugh at what we're seeing on screen, because it's the kind of stuff that no other show can realistically do. And my main objection to the Jodie Whittaker era, virtually all of it, and a great chunk of this year's Shooty stuff, come to think of it as well, falls into that trap, is it tells a lot of the same sort of stories that you do see in other genre shows, other TV, trashy sci-fi channel, C-grade fantasy drama shows, and other sort of silly serials, the kind of dramas that us geeks usually wouldn't touch with a barge pole. I mean, Rogue was a prime example. There aren't many fans of Doctor Who that also watch Bridgerton, for example. And I accept that Russell's a big fan of Bridgerton, and I think it's harmless, that kind of TV. But you can't just say, "Oh, this week I want Doctor Who to literally be Bridgerton," and have him trying to get in some bloke's tights for 50 minutes straight. It's, well, for 50 minutes. There's nothing straight about it. I know. It's, yeah, as I say, it's not, yeah. It wouldn't have worked if it was, I mean, look how chaste it was between the Doctor and Renette in The Girl in the Fireplace. Look how subtle that was. That wasn't about sex. He wasn't trying to nail her, was he? It was a proper romance. It was an emotional connection that they'd grown. Thistle Big says, "I know you disagree with me on this, but I preferred the first episode of Flux over Space Babies. That's how much I hated it. The first episode of Flux was the Halloween apocalypse." Yeah, Space Babies is far better than Halloween Apocalypse. The Halloween Apocalypse had, I think it was quite well directed. Wasn't it Jamie Magnus Stone directed that one? But you see, the main thing against it is it stars Jodie Whittaker. I rest my case. It had a few nice special effects in that as well. I like the idea of having a Doctor Who on Halloween and stuff. It's absolute bollocks. Can't stand any of it. Thistle says, my father wouldn't let me watch Rogue if it were on in 2005. Of course he wouldn't. No conscientious, responsible parent would. And so the idea that there are now parents in Britain and abroad who can't, because ideally we want children. I always watched Doctor Who with my kids, and as a child, it was something that we watched as a family. But if your parents are too busy and they're making a meal or doing any one of a number of other things, they should be able to put children down in front of Doctor Who and not feel that they have to screen it for them before they show it to them for sexualized content and behaviours. You should have every faith in this show. And that's where Russell T Davies is abusing his position. He's got it so wrong. I don't want to fall back on the old thing. Well, he hasn't got kids of his own, so he doesn't know. I know that Russell's got nieces and nephews and godchildren. He must have been part of their upbringing. He is a family man, even though he's not got children of his own. He's a family man. He seems to have a very big family around him. And actually, when you follow him on social media, there's a lot of stuff about that, where he's around at his sister's place with kids and things like that. I just think it's simply that he's been ideologically captured. He thinks he knows best. Good morning, says Scott in the game closet. Good morning, Scott. I think I've fallen behind here a little bit on the live chat. It's been a very laid back. I said it was a chill stream, didn't I? Boomer Dog says, I honestly don't think Doctor Who will come back if it's rested. The people who fought for it in the wilderness years have now moved on. New fans are too few. It's hard to say. Doctor Who will always come back. Russell's right about that. But of course, media is changing all the time. So by the time it did come back, if it disappeared now, it would be off for 10 years. You can guarantee that. There may be a film or something, but it'd be off television for 10 years. And who knows? Look how TV's changed in the last 10 years. Imagine what would change and what's going to change in the next 10. I know. What was I saying is in the live chat here with a fantastic icon, and says, I couldn't bear to watch the Shooty show after seeing the reviews. I'd rather watch Doctor Who. I think you should give it a watch. What's the worst thing that can happen? Pick an episode, by all means, out of the 8 or 9. I'd watch one and see what you think. What's the worst thing that can happen would be my advice. If you didn't watch the Jodie stuff, it's better than anything that she ever did. Chibnall ever wrote. It's not saying much. Yeah. Talk of Destination Scar was taking people right back there. Nearly a year since that was screened. What else is here? Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about Destination Scar because I think we went over that at the time to ridiculous extents. Richard says that Shooty is a one-note character. I'm not sure that's fair, but I'm not sure that's fair. But he's certainly not. He's certainly not playing the part on anywhere near the kind of levels that he could. Is it? I haven't said that though. I mean. He's not actually being given the best material either, is he? When I look back, when I reflect on these episodes this year, how many of them really had the kind of layers that used to be in Russell's Doctor Who work? Not much. Not much of it at all. Not much of it at all. Yeah, I haven't seen Sex Education, Thistlebix, and I'm not going to now. I think if I'd have enjoyed Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor Who more, I probably would go and watch more of his other work. But certainly. I'm keen to see Masters of the Air. I think he's only in that for about 5 minutes. And I haven't seen the Barbie film yet either, but I'm not going to go and watch Sex Education. It's not the kind of TV that, it's not made for me, so I'm very unlikely to enjoy it. And yeah, let people enjoy it. This or Beaks again. I like Star Beast, but things like the bashing on men and the weirdly out of place assuming of the beep, the meeps, gender. Yeah, that's what spoiled the episode. I mean, when you look back, when you go back and rewatch the Star Beast on television, that content, it amounts to less than a minute of an hour. It did completely spoil the episode. So it's the only stuff. When people talk about the Star Beast, it's the only things that people ever talk about as regards the episode. And that's not our fault. It's a shame. It's not our fault. It's theirs. Stephanie Barrett says, does anyone else agree with Dan about space babies? I can tell you for a fact the answer is no. Stephanie, the answer is no. I've only spoken to 2, maybe 3 other people that enjoy space babies on any level. And I don't think I've spoken to anyone who enjoyed it as much as I did. I think Harry Palmer, you liked it, didn't you, Harry? Several other people. John Yordan says, Rogue is so bad the CIA are seriously considering using the episode as a torture device. Oh dear. I could not agree more, Dan, says Dave. Whatever it was I said, I was absolutely right. I've fallen behind a little bit on the live chat, David. Thank you. Yeah, this has been quite a deep and meaningful chill stream this time. I'm interrupting Divining Dragon from his work here. He's hard at work. I have to focus on preparing lessons. I so miss having creative writing class, says Divining Dragon. And Ezra Goldstein says Doctor Who should be off TV for 10 years minimum, 20 years maximum. We have to wait out the woke mind virus. That's what Eon Pictures are doing. Things are changing. Things are definitely changing. The success of films like Alien Romulus wasn't remotely woke. I've been assured that Beetlejuice isn't woke either. So, time is up, really, and it might take a while yet. And as I was saying to Simon Horton the other day, the very last people to give up on it will be the BBC, mostly because it's not their money. It's your money that they're wasting on this stuff, and they laugh about it all the time, very publicly. So they'll be the very last people to give up on this nonsense. What else? I think that's probably about that, isn't it? Oh yeah, so we've done Star Beast. Still talking about Star Beast. We've done Space Babies yet again. And Heretic says this is the exact reason I'm worried about the war between the land and the sea. It's all written by Russell T Davies and Pete McTighe. If you don't like Pete McTighe's Doctor Who stories, Kablam and Praxius, I thought Kablam was actually pretty good. In all fairness, Praxius was terrible. But if you don't like that stuff, Pete's other work outside of Doctor Who, a lot of it is very, very strong. He is actually our best hope for Doctor Who going forward. If you want somebody to take the show over who has a lot of passion for it, talent, untapped potential, and energy as well, I think very, very clearly Pete McTighe is the best possible candidate around at the moment within the kind of bubble, without going overseas, maybe. Or trying to tap up somebody who isn't remotely interested. I think he's the best hope that we have in the short term. And I would imagine that the fact that Russell's working with Pete on the war between the land and the sea, we should view that as a good thing. It may not be the perfect solution, but it's generally quite a good thing. Hi, Fly Highland. Fly Highland says, I've never cringed more at a TV show than when I was watching The Star Beast. It's terrible, wasn't it? I felt this, because I thought the Star Beast episode was fantastic. It was everything I wanted it to be. And then it got to that scene in that warehouse at the end where the Meep's waiting, sort of been revealed as the villain, and they're waiting for it to take off in that rocket. And they start to look around and have that conversation. And my heart just sank. You know? Talking about dropping a bollock. I don't think the anniversary ever really recovered from that moment. If they hadn't have done that, you see the stuff with Isaac Newton at the start of Wild Blue Yonder, the pre-credit sequence, that's a problem, particularly from the BBC. That's a problem. That's cultural appropriation. That's an abuse of their situation. It's a problem, but it's one you can actually quite easily step over because it's so isolated from the rest. But to end the Star Beast with that and start the very next episode with something else that's misjudged and political, that double whammy, the anniversary never recovered from that. It never gained back our pride in it or our collective goodwill. And the giggle was mostly really, really good. But by that point, a lot of us were not out, but a lot of us were braced for the next bit of stupidity. And you can't relax and enjoy a piece of television for a full hour. You actually probably can't do it for 10 minutes if you're waiting for the next thing. The next thing that's going to be embarrassing, be finger wagging, and that's going to break the spell. It's impossible to immerse yourself in the drama, that's essential to all drama, but something like Doctor Who even more so because of the escapist nature of it. That's why we go to it in the first place. Cheer me up. Been a right sad sack, I know this time. Cheer me up, Millie. Come on. There we are. That's more like it. Fancy? Yep. Another glass, Millie. Oh, God. Fly Highlands talking about Remembrance of the Daleks there. Don't get me started on that fabulous piece of TV. I think I might have to. When's season 25 out on Blu-ray? They've postponed it, haven't they, to the end of October? Something like that. What a shame. A few more weeks. Yeah. It'll be with us before we know it, Peter. Okay. Yes, so also with you before you know it is this. So this is premiering tonight on the Type 40 channel. Type 40 live from Hooverville 15. Myself, Simon, Shah and Jack, we headed to Quad at Derby at the invitation of the fabulous Hoovers and covered this tremendously popular convention. Really, really well run and well attended. It was their biggest ever event. Hundreds of people filled all 3 floors of Quad in Derby, and we were there through it all, pestering people to get them on film and have a chat about about everything that was going on. So we got to talk to attendees and some of the stars of Doctor Who, including Wendy Padbury. So you didn't see her on the day here on the channel. We've got that coming on this video. So myself, Simon, I think Shah was there as well, with Wendy Padbury, alias Zoe from Doctor Who, as well as another few surprises there in the video edition of that's coming up later. Don't forget the Spacebook channel as well. So that's back up, the new-ish second channel, reborn with all our discussions from outside of the TARDIS in TV, movies, comic books, and any one of a number of other things with some of our friends. So the latest edition of that is over there right now with myself, Ian, John, Z, and the great Bolstrek as well. So we were talking our way through some of the movies to come in the rest of 2024, and you can get our Alien Romulus review over there as well as a listed special on the 1990 classic sci-fi film Total Recall, and our Sapphire and Steel episode is up there too. So go knock yourselves out with some of that. It's better than touching grass, isn't it, guys? There's some of the others. Okay. Autumn time. The time for Doctor Who this time of year. knock yourself out. Choose the classic story of that most befits, that most reminds you of those days when you were a kid watching the show, maybe, whether it was the classic series or the new series for that matter. And get carried away with the magic of Doctor Who that Russell T Davies seems intent on damaging in the short term. Thank you everybody for your company on this one. I think everything's working just fine, but I do enjoy doing these in the daytime. This one's been really laid back, hasn't it? Stephanie says, Dan, watch Kablam again and think about the Doctor's moral, ethical response at the end. Goes against everything the Doctor stands for. Jay Irksey pointed it out well. I missed it myself as I was unwell. I didn't miss anything about that episode, Stephanie. I haven't watched it for 6 years. But I did think it was good. Did I say it was perfect? No. But I know what you're talking about, and I actually don't agree with Jay. I think I don't agree with from what I remember. I haven't seen it for a long time, but no, I understood it perfectly well. Thank you. AI, says Michael Q. AI. And Thistle Beaks asks, when is the next stream? Yeah, there is another stream. So yeah, you got this tonight, Type 40 live, our from Derby Hooverville 15 show. And of course, there's our regular Type 40 live shows as well. So the next one of those is coming up this Thursday. We'll be back in the console room as ever. Now, I know what that's all about, and I think the others do as well. I think they do. To wait and see. But yes, we're back live, as always, this Thursday with more Type 40 live Doctor Who from 8 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me go on and on. I can't believe we've been doing this nearly an hour and a half. Where's that gone? I thought it'd be on for an hour. Yeah, okay. Here come the students later, says Double D. And Michael Q asks, what is a Charaxia? Answers, please, in the comments section to Michael's question. I've no idea what that is. There we are. So we do our level best. Okay, so yeah, I hope to see you later on for Type 40 Live from Hooverville 15 in Derby with myself and Simon and Shah and Wendy Padbury and everybody else there. And obviously the live chat will be open and the comment section will be open, so I'll be there for that. Back with more Type 40 Live this coming Thursday. Don't miss that either. Always something new to talk about, or old to talk about. There'll be a mixture of both there at Type 40 Live. You can guarantee that. Right, I think that's it. I think everybody's off for lunch. Well, they've had their lunch and listened to this, I don't know. And Filmed in Super Reticulation asks, are you excited for the Blake 7 Blu-rays? What do you think? Given what we talked about before, more Blake 7 content on the way as well. But that's it for this time. Thank you, everybody, for your company. We always have the time, or we'll make the time if you can make the space here at Type 40. Speak to you all again next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.